Hi, welcome to the Danbury Democrats. My name is John Gogliettino. I'm your host. We're going to be talking to a couple of council candidates. It should be a very interesting show. So stay tuned for our fireworks tonight. First on the hot seat, so to speak, is Helena Abrantes, right?
Right.
And George O'Loughlin. And you're running at large, and George, you're running in the first ward, right?
That is correct, the first ward.
Okay, now anybody ever watches any of the shows that I do always wants to know a little bit about the people, even if they've been here, because they forget over a few years.
Sure.
So tell us, starting with Helena, tell us a little bit about yourself, how long you've been in Danbury, and a little bit about your family and what you do, and then we'll get into the political questions.
Sure. Well, we came to the United States when I was 4, turned 5 a few months after we got here, and I've been here ever since. So I've been here for about 52 years. I became a U.S. citizen when my parents became citizens, so I was 14 years old at the time. And I can thank Chris Sotero for getting me involved in politics, because I'm the reason why he's the reason why I ended up getting involved, and I became a council member in the 2nd Ward, and I was a council member for 7 years. And then I became the city clerk. And I also had the opportunity to run for the position of mayor. But I am married. I have 2 children, and they are both married, and so now I have the honor of having 2 beautiful grandchildren. And I am a paralegal. That's what I do during the day. And at nighttime, I own a business. I own a restaurant, and that's where I am at nighttime. So my schedule is a happy, full schedule.
Okay, very good. George.
Okay, I haven't been here as long as Helena. I moved to Danbury 39 years ago, so I do consider myself a long-term resident. I'm married to my wife Sharon for 43 years, and we have 3 sons.
Yeah.
And I also have 3 grandsons. So we've kind of been through that cycle of having children, now grandchildren. My wife was a Danbury public school teacher for 24 years. She's now retired, like myself. I'm retired. By profession, I'm a social worker. I went to Fordham and got my MSW back in 1980. For 32 years of my career, I worked with people with developmental disabilities. For the last 7 years of my career, I worked for the town of Greenwich in case management, dealing with people with mental health issues, people in poverty, people that had immigration issues, people involved in domestic violence. So I have a broad spectrum understanding of the good and bad of the human condition.
Yeah.
And when I got a call saying, hey, there was an opportunity to run for the first ward, I said, well, if you're not involved, you can't help solve the problems. So I stepped up and decided to run again. I have some political background. I was on the Board of Education for 10 years. I was the chairperson of the Board of Education for 4 of those 10 years, and an officer another 3. So I'm very familiar with the Danbury city budget. Obviously, the school budget is one of the biggest pieces of it, and really know a lot of the ins and outs of what actually goes on in our school system. So, hopefully, if elected, I will be able to bring some knowledge and background to assist in solving some of the problems we have.
Very good. Okay, now the second question, which is basically, why do you want to do this? You're a paralegal during the day, you got the restaurant at night, and
Well, I actually miss doing what I used to do on the council. I think people don't get involved. People don't understand the process. And we need to get people back in there that really understand the process and listen to the voters, because that's one thing that I find is not happening nowadays. And there's so many different issues in our city that have to be addressed. I mean, a big issue was the roads. Of course, we see roads being repaired at this point, but it's an election year.
And the better part of the last 2 years, nothing was
correct.
going on.
Nothing, last 2 years, and even so, nothing was really being done. I do think that the funding for our schools is not good. We need to do something better for our students. I have a daughter-in-law who's a teacher in the public school, and another daughter-in-law is a teacher in Ridgefield. So I know what their concerns are and some of the things and the problems that they have issue-wise. But I think it's time that I start to do something again and get back in and voice my voice for the people that want
And to use the expression, give back to the community.
Yes, I've done that a lot in my life, and I think that's important. And also, we need to bring back committees, like our ad hoc committees. Now, people are not allowed to go in and speak at the ad hoc committees. And when I was on the council, it was positive to have those individuals come in and speak on behalf of the issues that we were voting on, so that we could understand them. And if there was something that came up and we could be made knowledge of it, it was positive. We could look into it and see if it was feasible.
Level
Correct.
as opposed to at the council at large. Yeah. Okay. Very good. George.
Certainly, the schools are an issue. When we look at funding, there's I think 169 towns in the state of Connecticut. In terms of funding per pupil, we were the lowest. We are number 169. Now that just raises a red flag, okay? So the question is can at the funding level that exists now, can we provide good education? Now, everybody doesn't have a child in our school system. And as a matter of fact, it's a relatively small percentage. But if you look at property values, the number one consideration for property values is the quality of the school system. And as our school system has lost pace with what's happening in the municipalities around us, our housing values have also become compromised. So it's an issue that it affects, obviously, families that have children, grandchildren in the school system. But on a bigger, broader scope, it's something that affects our pocketbooks. It's going to affect us in terms of being able to sell property in the town. So there's a lot of things, and knowing what has gone on in the last 18 years under the current administration, clearly we can do better in education. And not to go too much on a tangent, but after 18 years with the current mayor, all the problems are his. He can't blame on anybody else.
It's nobody else's problem.
And if he hasn't been able to solve them in 18 years, another 2 is not going to solve them again. We've also seen that I don't know if he's really even motivated to be here. He's run for 3 elections for governor. That tells me he wants to be somewhere else. And at some point in time, we need a change. And I'm really excited about the top of our ticket. Chris Sotaro brings an energy and a perspective that can bring Danbury forward, and that's what we need. We are wallowing, we're losing track with what's happening in not only in the state economy, but in the national scene.
Okay. Another issue that's come in, that I've heard repeatedly, and I just wanted to get an idea of where you feel on it, is the police enforcement of speeding in the various wards. Now you live over in the 3rd, even though you're running at large.
I live in the 2nd.
Oh, the second, right? Okay. But what do you feel about that?
It is true. I mean, if you go on 37 many times, there's excessive amounts of speeding, and also, the repairs to the road on 37 have been basically a nightmare, with a lot of work sitting there stagnant for quite a few years. But the speeding is bad. The roads, mine just got repaired this year, but the roads are in pretty bad condition. You go on to Barnum in the 2nd Ward, just different areas, even on Main Street. The speeding on Main Street is difficult. And one of our problems, I feel, is that we do not have sufficient police to cover the entire city. We keep on growing and growing and growing, but we need the police, the firemen, the space in our school system for all these people that are moving in here. We're getting rid of a lot of our businesses, which are a big tax base for our community, and just bringing in homes, and that decreases our tax base tremendously. Like on the west side, they're taking down the matrix and building more housing, and we have no place for a lot of these individuals. And it's wonderful to build a house, but what about all the other things that have to be included in that?
Meanwhile, you got less police, so then you got people that are used to, stepping on the gas and going way over, not just a little bit over. I can understand 20, 30 miles an hour in a 25 area, but we're talking about they're doing 50 and whatever. And a lot of it has to do, they tell me, I don't know what you know, they tell me that it should be about 150 at all times, because you divide that by the 3 shifts.
Yeah.
So that means there's 50 per shift. If you don't have that, then you don't have the right manpower on the road. You're down by 10 or whatever.
Yeah, my understanding that there are a significant number of vacancies in the police force, and that's of concern. You know, there was a time I used to see bike patrols around. I don't see those anymore.
Correct.
But when you talk about speeding down Main Street, we have crossing areas on, you know, all the way down Main Street, and I don't see drivers stopping for them. And there needs to be some active enforcement so people recognize that when someone steps off the curb, you have to stop. Because, you know, I'm sure there's been tragedies, and I'm sure there'll be more tragedies. So having more police patrols, I think, is a positive thing. And I know that there are individuals that have concerns about being downtown in the evening hours because there are no foot patrols or bicycle patrols going on. So that was, as I've been walking, that's become a theme among a number of individuals that I've met when I've been knocking on doors.
Now, have there been any issues? I haven't heard it as of yet because I've gone through a number of candidates. But the fire department, would you say that they've been doing a good job, or what do you think?
They're doing. I mean, both of the departments are doing a great job, but they're only stretched so far. I mean, they can't cover everything because of the fact that there's not sufficient amount of people hired by the city to do the job that they need to do. And you have your volunteer firefighters, which are wonderful, and they help also. But they're being consolidated. Correct.
Yes.
And we're just expanding so much that, I mean, we really need to bring businesses back. We used to give 7-year tax deferrals to businesses only. Now we seem to be giving 7-year tax deferrals just to our developers, and it's certain individual developers, not all of them.
Right.
And that really has to stop, because I remember when I was on the council, it was only for business purposes to bring in people into our community. They would buy homes, they would buy in our stores, they would stay in our hotels when the business was opened. So that was really generating a lot of income. But now that's not the case. Businesses are leaving, and we're building houses.
You mean, my observation is there seems to be poor planning or no planning at all. You know, obviously there's a need for additional housing in a city like Danbury.
In other words, you're looking in terms of this is not a 2-year deal. This is what you've been doing the last 6 years.
Well, this has been going on since the current administration. I mean, I can remember being at a board meeting and being told that there was 1,500 condominium starts, and that would have no impact on our school system because there wouldn't be children. And that's thematic.
Yeah.
I mean, the idea of having 1,500 condominium starts in a summer, that's awesome. Yeah. But you need a space in the schools, you need fire, you need police, you need the roads. I mean, it's a nightmare to drive through the city. You know, and what do you tag that at? It's poor city planning. And here again, we've had the same administration for 18 years. I think we need a change to come up with a plan. That's step one. I don't think that there is a plan, or if there is a plan, it has not been implemented well.
There's been complaints about and they're limited because, you know, when you plan a budget, if you're deliberately leaving off getting rid of a truck and the one less crew, you got less road crews out there. And part of it, you could tell, is take a look at the roads. You know, they've got so many things they can do, so I'm not saying that anything really bad about the people that are working on the road crews, but what do you think?
Well, in the wintertime, it's tough in Danbury now. I mean, it's not the city employees that are the problem. It's when they can go out and do some of the work because there's no planning. So by the time you're driving on the roads are very dangerous, and it takes a long time to get them to a point where they're safe for people to drive on them. And I remember years ago, I mean, we never had a problem. You could travel on those roads and get home safely. But now we're getting to a point where they're just waiting so long before they can do anything on the roadways that it's not safe.
It feels like plowing is supposed to be one and done.
Yeah.
When the schools are closed, it appears that we wait till the snowstorm's over. Well, the fact that the schools aren't going in, you still have the parents are getting their children to daycare. You have to get to work, and I've gone out, you know, to work an hour or so later than I normally go out, and my road's still not been plowed. And I'm pretty close near the center of the city, And I can remember it always being plowed, by 6:30, 7 o'clock, so that you could get to work.
So there appears to be less of them, and that question hasn't been asked, but it appears to be less
Yes.
city people
Yes.
out there and
And I
doing
don't
work. There's more contractors that come in and do exactly what you just said. If the height of the storm, they may be cleaning something, and then they wait until the storm is over before they. And in the meanwhile, people are in danger on the roads.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of companies don't close, and you do have to go to work. So you don't have a choice, and you have to travel. And depending on where you live, first ward, for example, second ward, you're coming down some of these massive hills and other parts of Danbury. It's dangerous, and you're putting a lot of people's lives at risk, and you don't have a choice because you do have to attend to it. Even around the hospital area, which is kind of appalling to me, how that is not one of the cleanest areas coming off of the highway with ambulances coming into Danbury. It is not maintained in a feasible manner, because if you go on Triangle Street or Virginia Avenue or any of those roads, they are not cleaned properly for ambulances to travel on or just vehicles to travel on to get to the hospital for the care that the patients need.
Yeah, again, it's the same thing. They wait till the storm is over before they do any serious cleaning. In the meanwhile, people are in danger, and they're not serving the citizens properly in that area.
No, and I don't want any of this ever to come across as us being critical of the city workers.
No.
Yeah, because
They're set up
I think they're short at least a couple of trucks, if
I'm
not
sure.
more.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So there's only so much they can humanly do during their time out there.
Yes.
You can't blame them.
No.
So it's the budgeting that comes from the mayor and his team, as he likes to call it. He's always talking about team.
Yeah.
Well, the people that vote for his budget. By the way, how does that work? I'm not going to put it on you to say, but when the mayor proposes something, a budget, and he's got his 14 people or more on the council, what happens?
They approve whatever he wants.
It's like they
There's
just
no
put it
questions
on.
asked.
It just goes through, and there's nothing that the minority can do.
Yeah.
If there's 6 minority people, or that they can't do anything about something he proposes.
It's true, but I remember when I was on the council, we did question things. It wasn't just Republicans, because there was a smaller group of Republicans, but there were Democrats that literally asked questions about a lot of the issues that were in the budget, and we got the answers that we needed in order to approve something or disapprove it.
Right.
So, we did have a voice. Now it seems like there is no voice. Something has a meeting, and it's approved, and we're done, and no one can say anything. And just like I said before, when you go to a meeting, you should allow the public to speak in those ad hoc committee meetings so that they can express and tell us what their concerns are, what the problems are with some of the issues that they're bringing forward.
I found when I was on the Board of Education, we spent a lot of time developing our budgets. And we usually had numerous meetings, and we went line item by line item to justify why we may be increasing the budget. And frequently it was, you have another 24 children in a school, you need another teacher, and some of that is there's not a lot of heavy thinking in it, it's just a matter of numbers. And we would go to the city then with a budget, with a recommendation of what we needed to be funded at, and we just get back a number. You're asking for X, but you're going to get a X minus something. And some years it was fairly significant. And they said, well, you'll make it work. Well, you know what? It affects the children. And some of the cuts that have been made over the years. And, I have to tell you that the pencil was sharpened many years ago. And it seems like somehow that pencil's now a nub, because there's no way that there's sufficient funds to handle the challenges that go on to the school system.
They should get another pencil to start off.
They need a new pencil.
A lot of the teachers have to pay for their own personal supplies for their classrooms because they don't get the funding for it. So, it's not appreciated, and people don't realize the cost.
And students work better,
Yes.
with these things if they don't have the right tools to work at studying, like pencils and paper, the right amount.
Yeah.
you know, some people have to be more graphic as opposed to playing. And I don't know if they're all computerized or not, but I doubt it. I doubt that it's completely computerized. What do you know?
Well, you also have homes that, honestly, they're not really computerized. You have children that can't afford it, families that can't afford it. Their extent of being able to use something computerized would be going down to the library, but the library hours are limited. So some of the kids
That's
don't
true.
have the time and don't have the ability to do what is required of them. They can only stay in school for so long, so many hours. And so, you know, it's wonderful to be computerized, but it's also wonderful to be able to do things manually so that these children have the ability to do what they need to do.
So the teachers up front on the blackboard, and they've got a pencil and paper, and they can follow. And what did you do? And that's learning.
Yes.
You know, have that. You have anything to say? Because you were on the Board of Education.
Well, I can tell you that, I mean, I know a lot of teachers, and the passion that our teachers have to deliver a quality education is certainly there. I think we can be proud of the job that they're trying to do. But right now, teachers aren't only expected to teach. They're expected to be counselors. You know, they're involved in all the issues and challenges that our students have. You know, the number of students with mental health issues seems to be expanding across the country, but, you know, in Danbury too, where we have children coming from very challenging family situations, and the school is expected to solve this or work around it. And there needs to be resources to address the mental health issues. I mean, if we don't...
They had counselors, but they didn't replace them, right?
Well, I think you need more than what used to be called a counselor, okay? Most guidance counselors, I don't want to define what their job was, but a guidance counselor is not a mental health professional working with children with mental health needs, whether it's depression, whether it's anxiety, whether it's the broad scope of things. I mean, the number of suicides among young children across the state and the country is fairly significant.
Because of peer pressure and other things.
It's you know, with social media, our children and grandchildren are living in a world that's very different now than when you and I went to school. And the pressures they have and the expectations that they're put under are extreme, and it brings about situations that need to be addressed by someone qualified to do it. I would certainly like to see, whether it's a psychologist or social workers, to deal with the mental health issues that exist in all our schools. I mean, you know, we see these mass murders and things that are happening in communities around us. Well, those things can be identified and those things can be addressed, and they need to be addressed. And our school system is not funded to do that type of work. It's expected to happen, and it just can't. The teachers can't do that, and they're not trained to do it. It's a different set of skills.
They know how to teach the second grade. Getting into this stuff that's way above their pay grade, you might save a few dollars, but you're hurting more than a few kids. Yeah, that's good. Helena, do you have a telephone number and or both, email that you'd like to give the public so if they have any questions to what you've been saying to follow up with you?
Sure. I mean, you can call me on my cell phone, which is 203-512-5692, and my email address is abra12hel@aol.com.
Could you repeat that for the slow writers? I know it's
You
slow.
put it up on the screen for us?
It's abra12hel@aol.com or 203-512-5692. And I truly hope that people consider our party this year. We have a phenomenal candidate at the top of the ticket and wonderful candidates underneath that. And I think we can make a difference in this, our community and just our entire environment, and change things around again in Danbury and make it a positive place instead of such a negative place to live.
Okay, George,
Okay,
the same.
My cell phone number is 203-253-0992. Again, 203-253-0992. My email address is ggolou GHLIN@gmail.com. Okay, it's basically 2 G's, my last name without the apostrophe, @gmail. Okay.
All right, very good. And we got about a minute each on like a closing statement. I think you already gave me part of yours. But let's start with yours so you can reconfigure.
Well, my closing statement is really, we've had 18 years of the same, and there's a lot of problems in town. And we want this town to grow and move forward, so we need a change. And I think Chris Sotaro has the skills and the ability and the passion to do what's right for the city of Danbury, and I ask you to come out to vote for Chris and to vote for us for council.
Yes, I agree. Chris is a great candidate. I've known Chris for a long time. I've worked on several of his campaigns. I support him 100% because he's truly passionate about his issues and the city of Danbury. He was raised here with his family. And so it's very important that you really put someone into office who literally cares and knows and understands the process in the city when you elect them. And I hope that you consider all of us as candidates for the city of Danbury and have some fresh ideas coming in.
Okay. All right, we still have another minute. So what do you do for an encore? So what have you been doing in the past month? You've been going door to door?
I have not gone door to door, but I've gone to a lot of different events. And we also went on vacation with my family. And I will start going door to door next week. So that's important because I enjoy going door to door.
You enjoy meeting people at the door and saying hi.
Yes.
So look for her. She's going to be coming to your door
I will.
soon. And George?
I've been out in the first ward with the other individual running for the first ward, Dennis Perkins. And we've been knocking on doors, meeting with families, and you'll see as Dennis has a cart with a Sotaro for mayor sign on it. It's a big help because for us to get around and meet everybody and shake everybody's hand, there's a lot of walking in the first ward. And it has enabled us to see a lot more people.
Now they're waving to me, it's time to go. So I want to thank you for coming on the show. I want to thank the viewers for tuning in to the Danbury Democrats. And have a good night now, and we'll see you next week.